Alrighty, so this video is going to cover, well, basically from here and up. Now, this section here, as you can see, I did a big class overhaul. I'll explain that here in a second. But this drastically cleaned up a lot of the code, as well as made it a lot easier to do stuff and maintain and expand on. So I'm going to go ahead and just start. Now, basically 3.1 is already out, so this is already released. But to sum it up, this is mostly stuff in relation to attaching. So here we see added implementable event for firearms to fire when they are attached to a socket to aid in performing tasks such as actions after the attachment. So the logic or the thought process behind here was, I had discussed this with another person on Discord. When you have a firearm and you want to attach it to your back, let's say you have a backpack on. Well, the idea behind this event here is you can attach it to the socket and then figure out an offset between a certain point of that socket as well as a socket on the back of where you would like it to attach to. So that way you can attach your firearm to the socket, then offset it. So that way it'll be sitting in the location and rotation that you set up on the backpack. So that way each bag could have a different position that you would attach firearms to. So if you put the firearm on your back and you had a backpack on, it would be in a different position than if you put the firearm on your back without a backpack. Just kind of a example use case there. Fixed a bug with preview parse, not allowing the parse to move. That's already fixed. Well, literally says fixed bug. Imported an example firearm to show off the firearm switching. So that was in the previous video of simply, so here's my guy, my firearm's on my back, and you can just simply switch between them like so, and the firearm gets put and stowed away on your back. So that's just the only reason that's honestly even there. It's not even textured. Then did some minor cleanups and fixed, don't remember what this issue was, but pushed the fix, or pushed the release for, well, obviously downloading. Anyways, move some map editor, well, improve the gizmos a bit for the map editor. This is done on the map editor plugin. However, it needs to be moved to the FPS template. So that'll be done shortly before release if I remember. And then fix an issue with client sites not aligning correctly when attaching. So there was a bug that had been plaguing this for a little while. So when you play as a client and you go to aim, like right off the start, your sight would not be positioned in the center of your screen. So it might be off center a little bit or rotated a tiny bit. And you would normally have to refresh the sight. So like press T, which is what you would normally use to cycle sights, to get it to correct itself. So that seems to have been fixed. I haven't been able to reproduce the issue since. And then I made some basic videos showing how to use the map editor and the new character component. And this I need to go ahead and do, but this will allow it, well, make it a lot easier for the end user if they're using sockets to attach their firearms to the hands. This will make it a lot easier to set it up so certain firearms attach to certain sockets instead of just having one specific socket, such as I'll show you here, like so, that the firearm attaches to. So that'll simplify that up a good bit. Well, not necessarily simplify it, but it'll allow a lot greater expansion of what people can do if they don't have the abilities to make their own animations. So this is just kind of one of those things to help some, I guess, devs that don't have the ability to animate or access to someone who can animate progress and keep going. So they can just create the socket, use pre-made animations, and just get it looking good enough, I guess you could say. So next up, the big change. So this is just kind of not really anything specific, but I have removed 15 total classes from the plugin and changed up how everything works together and redid the magnifiers entirely. So let's go ahead and I guess just look at it. So we head over to the C++ classes. All of the classes that have been changed are the firearm parts. So if we look at the firearm parts, we no longer have the skeletal or part skeletal and part static folder. Instead, all we have is base classes and these basic guys here. So the magazine, muzzle, handguard, forward grip, and barrel. And inside base classes, we have the light laser base, magnifier base. This is the root of basically every part. So this is the part base. Then we have a site base, and then we have a site magnified RT base. So RT just stands for render target, because I do intend on, it's going to take me a little bit, but adding in non-render target optics as well. So again, this is a render target, and another class will be coming, don't know when, but that'll allow for magnified optics that are not using render targets. So what all has been done? So this does involve a change, and this is probably going to break a lot of your blueprints if you have made your own. So I will have a video out on kind of how to do that. And obviously, if you're familiar with me at all, I have a Discord, and I'm on pretty much all day for the most part, and I am very active with support. So if you need help, join the Discord and make sure you are verified with the plugin, and I can help you as much as you need. So basically, let's go ahead and look at some of these parts. So I feel like the most generalized one would be the magnifier and the laser. So if we look at the magnifier, this is now set up in a different manner. Did not mean to do that. So basically, this is now encompassed into two parts. So it's not treated as one mesh, obviously, it's still two. But before, we basically had the option of, we would have a flip mount, which would be a part. And then we would attach a magnifier to that flip mount. And then that would basically allow us to have a flippable magnifier. Or we also had a magnifier complete class, which I had never really updated, and that ended up not working once I tried some things. So I decided to scrap that idea entirely and work with the new system. So basically, these are no longer fixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to recreate this really quick and show you how it's done. And I want to do the same thing with the light laser, because that kind of gives a better representation of what to do as well. So this works not only with, the separate, like having a flip mount with a separate, magnifier. You also can have a complete unit as well, which I have an example of right here. So this is all one mesh. This will be removed. It is not mine. Actually, the model might actually be the same, now that I think about it. That looks very much the same. Anyways, so let's go ahead and actually just create it real quick. So we're going to right click and create a new blueprint class. And this one's going to be of the magnifier base. So FPS template magnifier base. And I'm just going to call it BP YouTube magnifier. We open that up. As you can see, we no longer have a static or a skeletal mesh. All we have now is just a root. So this is for certain classes. So the light and laser has a root scene component. This just makes it easy to manipulate, because otherwise the scene capture component would then be the root, and that ends up creating some problems. So all we have to do is just add a skeletal mesh. And this one here, I'm going to make it a child of the root. And I'm going to add it to I'm just going to hit the magnifier mount as the mesh. Then I'm going to add a static mesh into that, and the static mesh is going to contain the magnifier itself, and it's going to be a child of the mount. So I want to make the magnifier attached to the magnifier. I can even click bone that I've already created. So everything's attached, and as the mount animates, the magnifier will animate with it. So next up, we just have to go through and handle collisions. So we just go from block all dynamic to custom, and go ahead and turn off firearm collision, as well as set it to ignore pawn, physics body, and vehicle. And last but not least, well, actually it might be least, we want to set a component tag of FPS part, and that's it. So this is now pretty much set up and good to go. So you see there with the tag. So that's why I wanted to show a light laser example as well. So also this, again, there still are events for the parts. So for example, actually I can show you right here. So for this magnifier, if I go to the event graph, we have an event that fires on use. Now this is triggered on all clients when the magnifier replicates to them. So basically all I'm doing is checking whether or not the magnifier is flipped out. If it is, we play an animation. So if it's flipped out, we play the animation to open it. If it's not flipped out, we play the animation to close it. Simple enough. Now let's really quickly look at the light laser. So this is for the purpose of the tag. So if we create a blueprint class off of the light laser base class, BP_U2_light laser, and we zoom in. Where am I at? All right, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and add a static mesh. And then this one's going to be the light laser. And from here, I grab the laser mesh, and I got to make sure I set that. And then, where is it at? Actually, it might be set to hidden. Or no, it might be visible. There we go. So then I would just go through, position it to come out of where the laser is supposed to, and just the basic stuff like that. Then set the decal as well, and all that fun stuff. Same thing with the spotlight. So that would be set somewhere kind of like this. So it would just be set in front. Okay, now you say you got your laser position and all that. So here's where the purpose of the tag comes in. So the tag is used for filtering. So basically we want to find the base part that we use for everything. So in my case, I have an actual socket. Let's go to it really quick. So I have two sockets. One is for aiming, so this one's S_aim, and then another one for the laser. So this one's S_laser. So this gets used obviously for aiming, and then this one gets used for projecting the line trace that controls the actual laser itself. So what the purpose of that is, this laser is a static mesh. So if we didn't have a tag, we wouldn't know how to get, or we wouldn't really have a good way other than comparing, whether or not the mesh equals the laser mesh, if this is the actual part that we're using as kind of the parent of everything. So this is kind of like the controlling part, because this has the sockets on it. So again, this, the body of the flashlight and everything, that has the two sockets on it that we want to access. So we want to make sure that is the part that we keep. So that's the purpose of the tags. So if I didn't have the tags, this wouldn't work at all. So what I have to do, select the static mesh, so the body, add a component tag. Again, just FPS part, compile and save, and that's it. So everything gets filtered by tags. So that is just kind of a brief overview of everything that, well, the way that's the way that it's set up now. So that gives a lot more control and a lot more flexibility, and it makes it a lot easier for me to expand things, because I'm working out of one class. Each class corresponds to the actual part that they are. There's no split like static and skeletal. And I'm also not using a crazy derived hierarchy like I was previously either, where I would have, for example, the thermal. Basically, the way you went to the thermals was you went through the part base, then you went to the site, then you went to the site magnifier, or the site magnified static mesh, then you went to the thermal after that. So not the greatest setup, obviously. It was always kind of a pain, so I made one change and it would potentially break something later down the chain. So this keeps everything separate. I no longer have a dedicated thermal and night vision class. Instead, if you wish to find those, basically all they are the settings here. So I have an example night vision magnifier, and then the thermal site. So if you want to find all the settings, go to the scene capture component, and you can look through them and see what all you need to change to get the same results. Or if I were you, I would just copy and paste these and change out the meshes and settings to suit whatever you need. So if you wanted a good thermal that doesn't have any like laggy screen, you would bump this up to like 60 and go from there and change out your mesh with whatever. Yeah, I think you can kind of see my point from here. But anyways, that allows you to get everything back to the way it was. This update will be updating all of the parts as well with it. So you really don't have to do anything other than fix your own classes if you made them off of it. So the way you would do that is just by reparenting, if it even allows you. So open up your mesh or your blueprint, go to class settings, and change the parent to the corresponding one. So if you have a magnifier, you change it to the magnifier base. If you have a red dot or something, you would change that to sight base. If you have a magnified scope, you would change that to sight magnified RT base, and kind of follow that guideline to get everything situated how you need. So again, I'm pretty active when it comes down to support. So if you have any questions, just feel free to ask and I'll try to help you out. Anyways, now that all that's out of the way, I got to get on to testing this a little bit more and moving over the gizmo changes, and then I believe this is ready to be packaged for version 3.2. So I'll see you in the next video.